Well, hi guys, Steve here, and this is update number 1 on the German Schnellboot. And this probably should be the end of the video showing the lit up model, but I'm going to start this way because we're going to deconstruct it. But I did decide to light this, and maybe it's not to spec. I'm not positive, but there's so many portholes, so many windows on this. It was just screaming to be lit, so I did it. The bridge looks a little bit brighter than it does in person. So I think that's good. I wanted it slightly dim. I don't think they wanted to advertise their location on the water with bright lights. It's all kind of brighter in the video. But I have a strip of LEDs along the base of the hull to light all the portholes. You can see there's plenty of them. I do have some fiber, which when I turn on the lights, we'll look at and talk about. There's a searchlight on the roof, so there's going to be some fiber to that. And port and starboard navigation lights. Talk about that later. Now I think there's a light. I think there's even a piece for it for a light back on the stern. I kind of decided I've had it with the lighting. I want to move on. But between that light and I think once the mast goes in here, I'm sure there's a light halfway up the mast, so I may just snake 2 more fiber lines. One here, one on the stern. If I decide later not to use them, I can just snip them off or push them down, so it's not too hard to put those in so they're available. Now we'll turn the lights back on. Okay, now for once the hull went together, which was a nightmare as you saw in the first video, everything else is pretty cool. Some of the parts, I was really touting the parts. I like the detail on the parts, but a few of them had some flash, or the part looked like it was made out of 2 halves, and the 2 halves weren't put together properly. But on the sprue, it's one piece, so you had to file the sides down on some of the small parts, which is not easy because you just file that side, and now the thing's lopsided, not round. So that was a pain on some of the parts. Some of the very thin parts, though, still I'm impressed with the fact that there was no flash on them. The stands, I was going to paint the stands just gray. I asked my wife, because she's the artist, and she said that's too boring. So since this is a boat that will be on the sea, I need to mix some blue in with the gray. So I did that, and it's a good idea. It looks good. It's the first time I ever glued anything to a base like this. I'm always afraid to and leave it loose. But since we have a lot of fiber optics and wiring coming out the bottom, I didn't want to keep pushing that against the ground. That wouldn't be good, and the props are all in. So I didn't want to be breaking those off either. So first time ever, I glued a sand on. Some of the parts, some of the supports underneath torpedo tubes, the supports for the torpedo stands, these look the same, left and right. At least I thought they did. And of course, I don't need directions for these parts. So I glued them all on and then realized they're not the same. Had to break them all off, switch sides, and put them back on. So be careful of that here. And the dogs want to chime in, of course. The side water vents. I had no idea I was going to light this, and I drilled those through with a pin vise. Then I decided to light it. So I couldn't have the light coming through those. I grabbed some tulip fabric paint, and I reached down inside the deck, because these are not glued on yet, with a toothpick and plug those up. That's one spot I have to decide. I think I'm going to make this showroom ready, fresh from the factory, and then I can always stare at that for a while. And when I get tired of staring at the brand new Schnellboot, maybe I'll weather it. But you can always do that later. You can't weather it and bring it back. Well, you could, but that'd be too much work to weather something and bring it back to like new condition. So let's take off some of these pieces. The bridge, it's got some good detail in the pilot and the steering wheel. I think you can kind of see him in there. Once this bridge goes on, though, all your detail gets hidden. Let's take this off. And there's our pilot there. Maybe get him in focus. There he is. I have an LED strip in the bridge. Let's see here. But I put it to the side so that when the bridge actually goes on, the walls of the bridge are right up against that, and it dulls down the light inside somewhat. So this is where I have the LED strip running the length of the hull. I put some wax paper over it to dim it down a little. This rear section, you can kind of see through these portholes. See some wiring in wax paper. So I'll have to do a better job of hiding those, or I may put some dull coat on the windows so you can't see in there. So on the left and right, I have a strand of fiber optic. These are going to be for the navigation lights. So the piece, and I'll put up a photo so you can see it. So the piece I has a little locator pin at the bottom, which I cut off, and then I drilled out the core of the piece, which is a pretty small piece, and then I'm going to run the end of the fiber into that core and fill it with canopy glue. This is a before and after of the navigation light. That's the hole I will fill with canopy glue mixed with some clear paint. And this is the hollow piece with fiber optic line in it. It's a little brighter than it really looks in person, but it comes out very nice, so we'll see. I heard from online on Starfleet Model Academy, said he mixes clear paint with the canopy glue, like clear blue or clear red. In this case, I'll use clear green and clear red. Mix it with the canopy glue. Put that inside the piece to look like the glass, and see how the color comes out. I'll test it on something and see how that works out. Otherwise, I'll need to put a red and green LED at the end of the fiber optic on the other end. But those should look really nice. So we'll see how that turns out. And that's about it for now. So maybe we'll just leave with a shot of the whole thing. I like the way all the pieces come together. The ship just keeps getting better and better as you put the parts on. A lot of parts with the kit. We've got a lot more to go, especially the mast. When I put that, I've never done rigging on a ship before, so I'm looking forward to doing that rigging. The directions are pretty good, showing where all the lines go. And that's it for now. So I'll hopefully see you not too long from now with a completed ship or much more work done. And we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.